Hello, VCV world. Um, it's been a while since I did any kind of tutorial type video, but I've got a backlog of all kinds of techniques that I've had fun investigating. And it's middle of the holiday season. I've got time off, recovering from COVID. Got time. I thought it's a good time to try to catch up on some of the videos that I've been wanting to make. And if you have seen some of my videos or seen some of my VCV community postings, you'll know that I really enjoy working with the VCV fundamental modules and seeing what I can do with those without resorting to other third-party modules. And it's amazing all the different things you can do with quote primitive modules that are there. And since version 2's come out, the fundamental modules they've added some really cool cool modules that just open up possibilities tremendously. And I need to update my fundamental constructs with a lot of new stuff. And this is the first one. So the Wave Table LFO. It's kind of cool because it allows you to load your own wavetables. And I was wondering, I was thinking about things like ShapeMaster and some other things where you can graphically draw envelopes or whatever. And in a sense, if you can create a wavetable, you can, load that into the LFO, the Wavetable LFO. And if there was a way to do it as a one-shot, I thought it'd be kind of cool if you could actually use the Wavetable LFO as an envelope generator, where you get to design the profile of your envelope. So I don't normally work with wavetables, but I did find an envelope wavetable. That goes from saw to ramp and with a triangle in between. And I've did some experimentation and I was able to succeed and came up with some really cool sounds. And this is going to be a long video. So I'll give you a little preview of what I was able to produce with the Wavetable LFO. And I won't talk about how I did it. I'll kind of save that to the end, but I'll just give you a little preview. And then we'll get started. So if we are going to make a Wavetable LFO envelope generator, we need to start with the Wavetable LFO. Let's get that out. By default, we've got our basic waveforms, but that's not what we want. I found an envelope style wavetable on the VCV community forum somewhere. I can't find the link. If I can find it, I will post that. But either way, I'll make the wavetable available as well in a link. And so I've got one called Envelope, and it has 2048 points instead of 1024. So all the way counterclockwise, it starts out as a saw or descending ramp, and then we can cycle or scan through the wavetable and go to a triangle and then go all the way to an ascending ramp. So let's prove that's what it really looks like. Let's put that, we need a scope and put that on here. Put this down a little bit. So here we go. Here we've got our saw. changing to a triangle, and then all the way to a ramp. So, but we want to make this one shot, one cycle by a trigger. So the first thing we're going to need is some kind of switch, and I'm doing everything with fundamental modules. So I like to use the fade module as a switch. It works really well. If we take our output, put that into the in 1, and then take out 2 to our put that all the way counterclockwise, put that all the way to the right. There we go. So it starts out right, it's off, and then if we want to turn it on, all we need to do is put the crossfade fully clockwise, and it's on. But we, of course, want to do that through CV, and that's the crossfade CV input. So let's get, we're going to control this with a gates that has a flip-flop, and we're going to activate the flip-flop with, we could use pulses, but I'm going to use the logic and the OR output of the logic, and you can just press the logic B button, and it gives you a nice big button to play with. So if we put that in the gate input, and if we watch the flip and flop, it starts out, flip is on and flop is off. Press the button and it goes backwards. So now flop is on and flip is off. So let's take the flop output and put that into our crossfade CV input, and hit the button once, it's on. Hit the button again, it's off. So we've got a simple switch. We want it to always start at the beginning of a cycle. So let's also take that same signal and reset the wavetable so that every time it starts, it begins at phase 0. And if you look, there's a little spike. And so we don't want that spike in there, and that's because there's a delay. We need to introduce a one sample delay, so we'll get a mix. Could use anything to introduce a sample. So we'll just put that into here. It's at 100% good. Take that to our X fade, and now every time it starts, there's no spike. It always starts at the at phase 0 without any extra spike. Okay, good. So now we can turn it on and off, but we don't want to press the button to turn it off, right? We want it to turn itself off. So we need to detect when it reaches 0 volts and then automatically turn off. So let us get a compare module, and we can take the input to the output of the wavetable LFO to the A input, set the B input to 0.01. We don't want to have to go all the way to 0. It may not get there reliably, so very close to 0. And then we can simply take that A less than B output and take that to the reset. Now what happens if, there we go. So press the button, it starts and then stops. We got one cycle. That easy. Now, of course, we're not done yet. We've got more work to do, but it's looking good. So one thing that's happening, right? So if let's slow this down. We can, I didn't talk about that, right? We can use the frequency to lower the frequency. It's a longer envelope. And let's bring that so we can. So if I press the button again, it stops it. Now we don't want that, right? So we want the trigger to only activate the gates trigger if it's currently off. Once it starts, then it needs to block the trigger. So we're going to need another switch. So let's just duplicate the fade, and we're going to put that input to the fade and take the output to the gate. And we're going to control it with, let me think now, we want that to be off. Right. We are going to control it with the same flop. So we replicate that, take that to the crossfade. Now it doesn't I can't start. Let's let that go to the end. Now if I press it, it starts and it goes to completion. Let's bring that around. If I start again now, I can press as much as I want and it doesn't end. So now it's only active. The trigger's only active when the cycle is not in progress. But let's say I want to be able to re-trigger. All right, so I want to be able to do a reset. The simplest way is, rather than have this A less than B trigger the reset, instead I will put that as to the input 2 for my let's reset this here. There we go. Why is that going? It doesn't look right. Just a minute, just a minute, just a minute. Why is that? It is. Oh, I'm sorry. Goes to input 2 for the trigger. There we go. Put it in the wrong place. So if it's currently off, then input 1 coming from the button is going to toggle our gates. And then once that toggles on, it immediately switches it. So now it's waiting for a signal from A less than B. So if we fire this, all right, that's still doing what we want, starting, but now I can, nope, that doesn't work. I still have to do, oh yes, I'm sorry. Now I can take also the trigger and send that to the reset. So yes, if I just press once, it starts, goes to completion and stops. But if I press it and then anytime it in there, it didn't restart. Why didn't it restart? Oh, right. I think if I have it, yes. No. I think if I put this gate, right, is that gonna do it? Ah, right. Let me get a mix, another mix. I think it's getting the signal to restart again, but it's not getting above 0.01, so it's immediately turning off again. So let me, when we trigger it initially, we're going to make a copy of that. We're going to, no, I'm sorry, not the gate. We're going to want to take the gate when the gate gets triggered, it generates another gate, right? And you can adjust the length. So I'm going to put that into here, and I'm also going to put the A less than B. Is that right? Nope, that's not right. Control Z. We want to take that's right, the wavetable output. The wavetable output or the gate, right? If either of those is greater than 0.01, then this will be false. So now I can start, and it goes right. But if I do this, right? So now each time I reset, the trigger sends off a gate controlled by this length here, and that's just long enough to allow the signal to rise above the 0.01, so that the cycle doesn't die. It waits until this turns off, rises above 0.01, and then when the cycle ends, then we finally get to back to zero effectively. So that's good. We've got a the ability to re-trigger. I would like to be able to typically with an envelope generator, right? It picks up where it left off. This, when it resets, it always goes back to phase zero or 0 volts. So it might not be ideal for audio uses, but there might be some other envelope generator uses besides audio, or maybe you want that percussive sound. So, in fact, let's do a test. Let's put a VCO up here, and a VCA, and we will take the output. Let's use triangle for the heck of it. Put that to our input. Take our envelope that we're creating, put that into the VCA CV input. Take the output here to our scope, and then also take that to the audio. And there we go. It's working. And you can hear the clicking that I was talking about. If I reset, it is introducing a click. But it's still anyway. It is still a reset. So that allows you to reset at any time, right? You don't have to wait for the if we put this more that way, right? I can reset even while it's in the ascending, in the rise portion. What if we only want to allow resets during decay? We want to force it to always go to the 10 volts before it allows a reset. So that is also possible. And in order to make that work, we are going to have to, let's get these out of the way. We are going to need another compare, right? So we need some way of, once it reaches, we don't want to allow the reset to go through until the cycle reaches 10 volts or nearly 10 volts. So we're going to need another compare. And we will set this to, let's do a, so it's 9.98. It doesn't necessarily reach a full 10, and I've seen it get like 9.93 or whatever. So let's just set this offset to 9.9. And we want to take the wave table, the wave table output to the A, and we are going to want to have something happen when it reaches nearly 10 volts. So right now the trigger is going directly to the reset. We're going to need another switch. So we'll get another fade. Oops. Get another fade. And we're going to, instead of taking that reset directly, we're going to put it into the input here to our switch. And we only want that to come through we are going to need another gates to so when it reaches 10 volts, we want to trigger the gates to flip so that this flop will go high, and then that will go to the crossfade. I think we got a little bit more to work to do, but it's close. So if I press, right, that's still working fine. If I, oh, no, it's not working fine. It's not resetting. There we go. That's the problem. Right. So whenever this reaches, whenever the cycle ends, we return to a flip state. So we can take that to the reset, and I think that'll do it, right? Yes. So now let's slow this down so we can watch it. It's rising. Let me speed it, slow it down. There we go. No, slow it down, right? Why is it so fast? Oh, slow it down, not change the wavetable position. So it's rising. I can press the button and nothing happens, but then once it reaches the top, now I can reset. Right? And we'll make it a little bit faster so we can look at this. We can reset during the decay, but during the attack, the reset doesn't work. Perfect. Let's say we want to allow control of whether we want to allow the reset, the retrigger, at any time or only during the decay. We want to be able to switch. So let's bring a mutes, right? And we are going to, right now, we're going to have two possibilities, right? We're going to either have directly from the logic to the reset, or else it's going to be going having been activated for after that it's reached the 10 volts. So we're going to need another mix to be able to mix those two different signals. And we are going to take this a copy of the trigger goes to here, and then to the mixer, and then that will go to the reset, right? So if this is enabled, it goes directly to the reset. And now the other option is if it comes from our delay till after it has reached 10 volts, take that to that mute, take this to the mixer. So right now, the direct reset is enabled, so I should be able to, but there's a problem. I have introduced some sample delays. So before, this is going 1, 2, 3. So I need to delay the trigger by 3 as well. So if I go here, 1, 2, and 3. There we go. So now I can I can do a reset at any time, right? But if I mute that, now it's only going to allow the reset that comes after the it's reached 10 volts. So if I start it, let's make this a little bit slower here. So if I start again, nothing happens. But after it's reached the decay stage, I can reset. But during the attack phase, I can't reset. And if I mute them both, now I can't re-trigger at any time. It only works until once the cycle's finished. So that's great. If there's still one slight problem, if I change to a very fast attack and I allow the retrig, right? Notice if we're getting double hits, right? That's not a clean attack. So we need to we need to convert this manual gate of whatever length. We need to convert that into a very short trigger. So we'll get another gates, and instead of going direct into there, we'll put that in gate here, and we'll take a trigger output. Now, and what happened? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. We want that to be this reset. So take everything here. And take that. There we go. I think that will do it. Yes. So now we've got a nice clean attack, even when we've got that delayed retrigger until after we're in the decay phase. If we put this back to a triangle, you can see the rise. We can't reset. Now we can reset. All right. That is a pretty flexible envelope generator. So let's hook this back up. Let's hook this back up to our VCA, and we will take the output of our VCO and put that here. It's looking good. Let's shorten it so it's not quite so long. So we'll increase the frequency, we'll shorten, and we'll make it a nice quicker attack. What happens if we modulate the wavetable position while the wave cycle is progressing? Let's get an LFO. And let's just put that to our wavetable position and bring up the attenuator to give it some juice there. Now it's not consistent. If we want it to be consistent, all we need to do is take the same reset, right? That resets the wavetable LFO at the start of each cycle. Reset the LFO as well. So now should have the same profile every time, and we can change the frequency That's pretty cool. Well, what happens if we bring that up pretty high? Ooh, it's making audio, right? Well, let's just ditch. Let's ditch the audio entirely. Let's ditch the VCO and just listen to the envelope itself. This LFO is now a VCO audio rate. We're at audio rates, and it's providing the pitch. But it's got a lot of DC, right? It goes up and down. Let's. All we need to do is if we put a high pass filter, that'll get rid of that DC offset. So let's bring a VCF in here. And not go directly. Let's go in and we'll take the high pass and we'll put it all the way down to, I'm not sure how far we need it. Let's start here. Right? It's just taking the really slow envelope and we now have a VCO. The LFO is functioning as a VCO. Well, let's put rather than using an LFO, right? Let's just use a VCO. We'll take this VCO and put this in here and send that to the wave table position, right? Nothing happens until the envelope starts. And if we, let's see, enable re-trigger at any time, and let's slow this down so we can watch the waveform a little bit more. In fact, let's put the trigger on so we can watch the wave. And let's make this a little bit slower so we have time to watch it happen. And let's make it a slow attack and a slow decay. That's a cool sound, right? And it starts out as the triangle wave, and then kind of inverts, and then writes itself away. So that's the triangle. What happens if we do a sine wave? It's got a little folding action going on in there, but it's definitely the waveform is helping shape the sound. Let's try saw wave. Kind of cool how it inverts, starts out normal and then it inverts the saw. And we can, lastly, let's try a saw wave, a square wave. So I think this is really cool. So we've got a wave table LFO. We figured out how to make it a one shot. And now by modulating the wave table position as the cycle is progressing, this envelope generator is also functioning as a sort of VCA. So it's a combined envelope generator VCA all in one that really colors the sound, because it's not just preserving the incoming waveform directly, it's imparting its own shape on top of it. Yet it is still preserving some of the original waveform. And of course we can change frequency, right? So let's get a keyboard in here. So if we get the MIDI CV, right? And we want I'll set this just a computer keyboard, and we're going to take the volt for octave from that and send that to our VCO, And then the gate, rather than coming from the logic button, we're going to take the gate from the keyboard. So now, but we can have polyphony, right? So let's say this is functioning as an attack decay envelope, right? It's not, there's no hold. So it's not uncommon to just let that ring out to completion for each note. So we can do that easily enough. We can set the polyphony mode, the polyphony channels to 16. And it's on rotate, so that it'll just, each successive note will go to a different channel until it cycles back around. But notice that even though we've got polyphony going into the wavetable position, we're still only getting monophonic output. So the way to get around that is the controlling input for polyphony on the wavetable LFO is the FM. So let's get a merge, but we're not going to merge any signal. All we need to do is set the number of channels instead of automatic, set that to 16, and we're going to take some output from there, and we're going to put that into the FM. We're going to keep it at 0. It's not going to do anything with the signal that's coming in. All it's doing is changing the polyphony of this module, right? So now we've got full polyphony. So now and let's make the attack a little bit stronger. And that's sine wave. We can do the triangle wave. Very similar, but if we go to saw wave, a distinct difference. I like the triangle wave. But we can still, right? We're modulating the wavetable position. What happens if we bring an LFO in there? We've got an LFO. Let's bring a mixer in, and let's get a CV mix, right? And here, we'll put this up here. Rather than have that go directly in, we'll set this full on. We'll take the full VCO, but let's also add in a bit of the LFO. Let's do the saw wave, and we'll put this in here and put that, in fact, let me bring this down here. There we go. And I'll put this one here. Right now we've got no LFO in there. Let's add a little bit of LFO. It's adding additional attacks. Right? And we can change the frequency. I'm sorry, change the frequency of the LFO. And if we want, we can add another VCF and a low pass mode, just to tone down those clicks a little bit. We're not going to be able to get rid of them entirely, but let's put that there and bring this up. So this is pretty freaking cool. I'm not aware of any module out there that does this. I've started making some of my own modules, and I hope to release a plugin soon. This probably won't be in the initial release, but I'm thinking of trying to build all this functionality into a module. I'm not sure if I'll keep it wavetable based or if I'll compute, get the same functionality, but rather than have a wavetable, I could probably just do that with some math and have a phase to know where I am at all times, and then adjust the shape of the envelope mathematically on the fly instead of using a wavetable. But that's down the road. So that's an example. So that's showing what you can do. This is all fundamental modules, right? There's no extra stuff. I'll make a selection available for this. We want retriggering, I think, for the module. We always want the retrigger available immediately. So we probably don't need this stuff here if we're going to use the Wavetable LFO envelope generator as a envelope / generator / VCA, as we're doing here. We don't need to be able to detect when it's reached the 10 volts and allow the reset at any time, so we can eliminate a bunch of those modules. So I'll probably have two selections: one, the full-blown with all the retrigger options, and then another one that just always retriggers at any point. And I thought I will close this out with an example. I actually took this technique. I didn't have the 10 volt retrigger limitation in there. I will open up So what we've got here, let's get rid of this was for an open mic performance that I did, so I can activate things with the keyboard. I actually, this is all fundamental modules, and here in the let me get my mug out of the way so you can see this whole patch. In this lower right hand corner here, we've got the Wavetable LFO envelope generator / VCA hybrid, right? Here I have got a sequencer, the Seek3. It's got 3 different CV channels that you can use, and I'm feeding the CV1, CV2, and CV3 into a 4-to-1 switch. And so it's just cycling which channel it wants. So it starts out listening to CV1, then it goes to CV2, then to CV3, and then back to CV4. So it repeats back to CV1. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1. And then it cycles back to 1 again. Start the next cycle. And it is, not only is it providing the sequencing here, but I'm using these gates to I'm replicating the output. Yes, I'm taking these outputs, right, and feeding that into a merge. So all we're replicating it 8 times. We've got 8 channels, right, and then we're using the gates to select only. Each step gets a separate gate, so it gets a separate signal. So it's rotating which polyphonic channel is going to actually play the note, so that we let each note ring out like we did in the demonstration that I did before. And then I've got some Bernoulli gates. I got 2 Bernoulli gates that are then controlling switches that control the rate of a LFO, which is giving me the multiple attacks. So it's got the first one selects between 2 or 4, and it's like a 33% chance that it will be 4 attacks, and the 66% chance that it'll be 2. But then that goes into yet another Bernoulli gate. And in fact, let me put this at 76. And that's so either the 2 or the 4, that's only got a 25% chance, but 75% of the time it's going to be 3. So you got the math worked out here. And the last thing I'm doing, I'm actually changing a static, the wave table position, right? We've got the wave table position is coming from the CV mix here, right? And we've got 3 inputs. One of them is coming from the VCO, right? So that's our note. That's full on. We've also got the saw, the LFO, at a reduced rate that's providing multiple hits, and then we're also using a random generator to statically adjust the wavetable, so that effectively changes the attack rate, and sort of it's almost like a velocity control. So we got some motion. Enough talking. Let's hear what this sounds like. It's a nice melody. I've got a couple buttons. One more thing to talk about. The Seek 3 doesn't. It's got its own internal clock, right? It's got, in my view, a flaw in that you can reset the sequencer, but it doesn't reset the clock. So you can't cleanly use the internal clock and cleanly start every time. And I want to be able to always start at beat 1 of the sequence, full on. And I also want to be able to stop at the end of the sequence. So I've worked out some stuff with gates and logic to be able to control. So it basically arms, rather than starting the sequence immediately. Well, actually, it's always running, but I've got switches that, don't allow the sequencer to pass through, and then I press a button, it arms, and then once it reaches the beginning, it then activates and allows the sequencer signal to go through and the gates to go through, and we got music. So let's go. So we press push. If we push here, see it's armed, and then once it reaches, it's come around at the beginning. So I pressed this other button here to arm it so that it stops at beat 8 of one of the phrases. I really like that melody. I've actually got a variation where I get rid of the random, 2, 3, or 4, and just put the probability of the second Bernoulli gate all the way up to 100% so that it always plays triplets. And I did a improv with my flute, and I'll post a link with this video to that performance. Really gorgeous melody. So I hope you like this. I hope some people find some use for this interesting technique. This is really cool, right? I mean, this patch doesn't have any VCA, traditional VCA. It doesn't have a traditional envelope generator. It doesn't have any reverb. It doesn't have any delay. It's all being provided by the Wave Table LFO and some supporting modules. I hope you enjoy this, and hopefully I won't be so long. I've got a big backlog of interesting techniques that I want to talk about, and hopefully I have another video soon, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.